On the bottom of our planet lies the frigid land of Antarctica, the coldest and most inhospitable continent in the world. Stretching over 5 million square miles, Antarctica is covered in ice sheets that reach more than a mile deep.
Antarctica is the last frontier. It holds our imagination. The last remaining territory on the planet that could have such a designation is Antarctica.
In the 1990s, Antarctica became a hotspot for daring explorers who were curious to know what secrets the icy continent held. But despite the many expeditions that happened there, no one really knew the full extent of Antarctica's mysteries, as there were still some parts that no one, no matter how brave, could access.
Antarctica, one of the most brutally cold places in the world. A frozen desert where no life exists except for at its melting edges.
It's a bleak and inhospitable place. Blizzards and katabatic winds can blow in from nowhere and last for days.
But all of that has now become a problem of the past with the birth of drone technology. Instead of an untouched, icy wilderness that the world had been led to believe, these drones revealed chilling secrets that left explorers utterly astounded. From strangely, seemingly perfectly sculpted structures to animals no one ever expected would survive the harsh climates, join us as we unveil the chilling drone discoveries of Antarctica that no one is supposed to see. Evidence of lush rainforest. This may be hard to believe, but what if we told you that the icy lands of Antarctica used to be covered by lush green vegetation thousands of years ago? Unbelievable, right? Well, that's exactly what researchers have discovered through their fascinating exploration of this frozen continent. It turns out that Antarctica was once home to a vibrant 90-million-year-old rainforest, complete with a variety of plants and animals, including possums and beavers.
A mission to the Antarctic has revealed fossilized plant roots preserved deep under the ocean since the time of the dinosaurs. It seems this freezing landscape was once home to a lush forest.
Fossil evidence has revealed that the climate in this region was exceptionally warm at the time, with an average annual temperature of around 12 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 2 degrees warmer than the mean temperature in Germany today. During the summer months, the mercury would climb as high as 19 degrees Celsius, with water temperatures in the rivers and swamps reaching 20 degrees. The amount and intensity of rainfall were even similar to that of modern-day Wales. To support such a thriving ecosystem, the researchers conclude that the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere must have been far higher than previously assumed for the Cretaceous period. This incredible discovery challenges our previous understanding of the Cretaceous, which was already known as the warmest period in the past 140 million years. But that's not all. Analysis of ancient ice cores from Antarctica has also provided valuable insights into the continent's dramatic climate shifts over geological timescales. These ice cores have shown that over the past several 100,000 years, temperatures in Antarctica have fluctuated by more than 10 degrees Celsius, correlating with the glacial and interglacial periods seen in the northern hemisphere.
The ice core's layers are like tree rings, each layer representing a year of weather and snow.
We can tell what the temperatures were. We can tell how rough the oceans were around Antarctica.
This dramatic shift in Antarctica's climate and the recent rise in carbon dioxide highlights the scary possibility that the Antarctic ice sheets would melt more rapidly than normal. Antarctica Pyramid. The appearance of mysterious, pyramid-like structures in various parts of the world has long fueled speculation about the presence of extraterrestrial life on our planet. And the recent discovery of a peculiar, pyramid-shaped mass in the Ellsworth mountain range of Antarctica has only added fuel to the fire. A satellite that was directed to the southern part to provide an aerial view of that part of the continent revealed many strange formations, but amongst all, one that stood out was a structure of perfect pyramid symmetry with an astounding 2 kilometer square at its base.
In 2016, satellite images revealed a curious formation emerging from the ice. that some researchers believe could be a man-made pyramid.
Which is almost like the iconic Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Given the extreme isolation and inhospitable conditions of Antarctica, where human presence is extremely limited, the presence of these mysterious structures on the frozen landscape immediately set the internet ablaze with speculation and theories. And before you knew it, some enthusiasts suggested that the pyramid could be the remnant of an ancient civilization that thrived in the region long before 1,000 years ago, while another group claimed it was the handiwork of extraterrestrial visitors that were drawn to the continent for some unknown reasons. However, geologists and experts found these speculations to be very outlandish. So to debunk these speculations, a certain geologist at the German Research Center for Geosciences in Potsdam, Dr. Mitch Darcy, said that the so-called pyramids are actually natural formations known as nunataks, which are peaks of exposed rock protruding above the surrounding glaciers and ice sheets. Though his explanation did make sense, there's still a possibility that the structure is really a pyramid, and that his response is a deliberate cover-up effort to divert attention from whatever is happening in and around it, just like the government did with the Black Pyramid in Alaska. What do you think? Antarctica tunnels. Still, on the topic of the possibility that the icy landscape of Antarctica is or used to be home to some extraterrestrials, another piece of evidence has come forth with the discovery of strangely well-constructed tunnels. In another survey, researchers from UK universities and the British Antarctic Survey Centre decided to take a closer look at the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf in West Antarctica. They had this super high-tech plane loaded with all kinds of advanced sensors and equipment, and they were just flying around, mapping out the land, ice, and even the sea underneath. But when they started scanning below the ice with their radar, they were shocked to discover massive arched tunnels stretching an unbelievable 820 feet high.
So a new discovery in Antarctica. Researchers find new life under an ice shelf, and the discovery was an accident.
Which is high enough to comfortably house the Eiffel Tower with room to spare. Needless to say, the researchers were absolutely amazed when they saw these tunnels on their scans. At first, they tried to come up with a natural explanation that maybe the tunnels were carved out by flowing meltwater, slowly eroding the ice over time, which does make sense since the water could be concentrated in certain areas instead of spreading out evenly. But some people were still not satisfied with this explanation. The more they looked at these tunnels, the more their size and carefully sculpted structures looked man-made, and soon they started to wonder that perhaps, just like the perceived pyramid, they were created by ancient, or even advanced, civilization that once thrived in the icy region. Which of the parties has your support? If you're still indecisive about where to pitch your tent, the next discovery will give you that confirmation you need. Underground cathedral. In addition to the perfectly carved caves that scientists found in Antarctica, scientists also found an ice city that was completely hidden in the ice. During one of their routine mapping of the area, they noticed a strange groove in the ice, hinting that there might be a river flowing underneath. Intrigued, they decided to take a closer look using high-tech radar equipment, only to find, to their utmost astonishment, the most beautiful, massive, cathedral-like cavern, which they believed was carved out by a subglacial river.
The under-ice landscape is full of colors, full of light, full of life. It's like you step into a forest. It's very diverse and it's beautiful.
Curious to know what this 10-kilometer-long cathedral, which was almost as tall as the Empire State Building, held within it, they lowered a camera down into the cavern. And boy, were they wowed. Not only was this structure gigantic, but the interior was made up of icy walls that were carefully sculpted into these beautiful, undulating patterns, almost like the intricate stone carvings you'd find in a real cathedral. It was like stepping into a frozen underground palace, hidden away from the world above. But that wasn't even the most surprising part. When they went deeper, their camera spotted some strange and wonderful creatures swimming in the dark waters below. Among them, were the anemones that were clinging to the icy ceiling. Normally, anemones live on the seafloor, but these ones had adapted to life under the ice, forming this upside-down garden. And swimming alongside them were bizarre, shrimp-like crustaceans and even some fish. And that was how a whole secret world was found, just thriving in this hidden, frozen cavern. Scientists, on one hand, couldn't stop asking how these creatures adapted to survive in this extreme, lightless environment, completely cut off from the outside world. The world's loneliest ATM. Speaking of artificial structures, another of the most fascinating and unique discoveries of the frozen continent of Antarctica is the world's loneliest ATM, nestled in the heart of McMurdo Station.
The Wells Fargo ATM at McMurdo Station is the most southern one in the world. And it's the loneliest ATM in the world as well, as there isn't another one for hundreds and hundreds of miles.
McMurdo Station is a remote scientific research hub and the largest of its kind on the entire continent, and depending on the time of year, its population can range anywhere from 250 to over 1,000 people. This particular ATM is not your average cash machine. It is one of two operated by Wells Fargo at the McMurdo Station, with the other serving as a spare parts source. Interestingly, the officials at Wells Fargo are taking no chances with this remote and crucial piece of infrastructure. To make sure the ATM performs at its best, the machines undergo a complete checkup and software update every 2 years. The staff are thoroughly trained to handle simple repairs and maintenance tasks, ensuring the ATM remains operational even in the harshest conditions. And there's another full-size ATM just in case they need to swap out any faulty parts. Security-wise, the company is also extremely tight-lipped about how much cash is actually stored in the machine at any given time. The only thing that is publicly known is that there is a security camera installed within the ATM unit itself. The most surprising thing about this ATM is that even though the McMurdo Station is situated relatively close to territory claimed by New Zealand, the ATM only dispenses US dollars. This is because there is no official currency used throughout the continent of Antarctica. The landmass itself does not have its own national dollar or any other type of native Antarctic currency. Because of that, an organization called the Antarctica Overseas Exchange Office started to produce special collectible banknotes that are meant to represent Antarctica, and they can be purchased and sold at their face value as long as they are still valid. So residents who need to exchange their withdrawn US dollars are left with no choice than to trek 2 miles to the nearby Scott Base Research Station, where they can exchange it for these fancy notes. Green icebergs. Another incredible drone-assisted discovery in Antarctica are the mesmerizing green icebergs.
Green icebergs have been turning up in Antarctica, and scientists just figured out this green ice, was coming from beneath the ice shelves, the floating ice shelves.
These natural wonders are like nothing you've ever seen before, with a captivating emerald hue that's far more vivid and striking than the typical blue and white icebergs we're all familiar with. Now, for the longest time, these green icebergs have been a real head-scratcher for researchers. When the first explorers and sailors stumbled upon them back in the early 20th century, they were completely puzzled by this unusual coloration. At first, the leading theory was that the green color came from dissolved organic matter, like dead marine plants and animals, trapped in the ice. The idea was that this organic material would appear yellow, and when combined with the natural blue of the ice, it would create a green effect. But further research showed that the green ice didn't actually have any unusually high levels of these organic impurities, so that theory just didn't hold up. This sent the scientists back to the drawing board, determined to uncover the real secret behind the iceberg's captivating color. After years of research, scientists were finally able to crack the case. What they found was that as glaciers flow over the rocky terrain of Antarctica, they grind up iron-bearing minerals into a fine powder that gets incorporated into the marine ice at the base of the ice shelves. When this iron-rich ice breaks off and becomes an iceberg, the iron oxide particles scatter the light in a way that gives the ice its striking green appearance. The snow cruiser. In an exploration of the icy landscapes of Antarctica, a group of scientists stumbled on the legendary Antarctic snow cruiser, under 23 feet of snow. The snow cruiser was a massive, 55-foot-long and 20-ton experimental vehicle that was developed for Admiral Richard E. Byrd's 1939 to 1941 Antarctic expedition.
This is the Antarctic snow cruiser, designed to push through the harshest conditions on the planet. And it'll end up as one of history's greatest engineering legends.
Admiral Richard E. Byrd was a pioneering American explorer who played a major role in the exploration of Antarctica. He was the first person to fly over both the North and South Poles, a remarkable achievement that launched his Antarctic adventures. And he didn't even stop there. To further seal his place as an unrivaled explorer, he further led several major expeditions to the frozen continent in the following decades. All his expeditions only made sense when the U.S. had staked claims to various regions of the continent, and it was only his detailed surveys and aerial surveys that provided the evidence needed to bolster these claims. Now, back to the 1939 to 1941 expedition. In their earlier expeditions, Byrd and his crews had struggled to effectively traverse the vast, frozen landscapes of Antarctica using traditional vehicles and equipment. The extreme cold, deep snow, and treacherous ice made long-range exploration and supply missions extremely difficult. After Byrd's second Antarctic expedition in the early 1930s, it became clear that a new, specialized vehicle was needed to overcome these challenges. And that was how the snow cruiser was born. The snow cruiser was an engineering marvel that was powered by a 200-horsepower diesel engine with a top speed of 30 mph on smooth ice. It was like a part-tracked vehicle, part bus, and part mobile research station, with features like living quarters, a small kitchen, a workshop, storage for supplies, and even an aircraft hangar. The idea was for it to be a self-sufficient unit that could travel long distances, house a crew, and conduct scientific research. However, despite its ambitious design, the snow cruiser encountered numerous problems during its initial test runs in Antarctica. The massive size and weight of the vehicle made it difficult to maneuver and control on the ice. The tires repeatedly got stuck in the soft snow, and the complex systems on board frequently malfunctioned in the extreme cold. After just a few weeks, the snow cruiser was essentially abandoned, and the crew ended up using it as a stationary living quarters instead. And when the expedition ended, the snow cruiser was left behind in Antarctica, only to be rediscovered recently. The Endurance. In 2022, a group led by the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust set out to locate the wreckage of Shackleton's ship, the Endurance, exactly 100 years after Shackleton's funeral. This iconic vessel had sunk in the Weddell Sea all the way back in 1915.
She hasn't been seen in over 100 years. This is the Endurance, resting nearly 10,000 feet down in the dark, freezing waters at the bottom of Antarctica's Weddell Sea.
And many people had given up hope of ever finding it again. But these explorers were determined to uncover this piece of history. Frankly, the expedition wasn't an easy one, as the researchers had to battle through constantly shifting sea ice, raging snowstorms, and freezing temperatures as low as 18 degrees Celsius. That's about 0.4 degrees Celsius. But luckily, they were able to take advantage of some unusually low sea ice levels to reach the area where they believed the Endurance had gone down. After the hard work and challenges they faced, with the help of an automated water vehicle, which was equipped with high-resolution cameras, the explorers finally spotted the Endurance buried almost 10,000 feet below the surface. To their surprise, despite being buried in water for decades, the ship was in incredible condition, with the name Endurance still clearly visible on the stern, and even Shackleton's cabin still intact.
Finally revealing the story of a shipwreck more than a century old. In 1914, Sir Ernest Shackleton set out on a British expedition to cross Antarctica, but in January 1915, the Endurance became stuck in the ice.
Even the marine archaeologist Menson Bound was so thrilled that he described it as the funniest wooden shipwreck he'd ever seen. Instead of deteriorating, the wreck had become a thriving home for all sorts of deep-sea creatures, like sea squirts, anemones, and starfish, over the past century. Because of its significance, it was made an important historical site protected as a special monument under the Antarctic Treaty, which means that scientists can only carefully study and document the wreck, but it won't disturb or be removed from its resting place on the ocean floor. Antarctica vegetation. Antarctica has always been fronted as this unforgivable, harsh iceland that is absolutely brutal to life. But what if we told you that that perception of it is half true, as drone coverage has revealed an unexpected plantation of amazing plants and living things that have found a way to survive and even grow in this frozen land? One of which is the hairgrass, a type of grass that grows in tight little bunches, holding on to the rocky areas near where the penguins live. The grass has learned to deal with the constant disturbance from the penguins, the strong winds, and even the penguin poop. When winter comes, the grass just drops its leaves to stay alive until the weather warms up again. After that, we have the beautiful Antarctic pearlwort, a small cushion-shaped plant that can grow up to 5 centimeters tall and has pretty yellow flowers. We were taught in biology that plant flowers only do well with the help of insect pollination, but somehow this little plant has figured out how to grow and bloom, even without any insects to help pollinate it. Instead, it uses the wind to spread its seeds. Besides these 2 flowering plants, most of the plants in Antarctica are things like mosses, liverworts, lichens, and algae. These types of plants don't have the same kind of roots and stems that other plants do. Instead, they can just soak up the water and nutrients they need directly. There are over 100 different kinds of mosses, 25-30 types of liverworts, 250 lichens, and a whopping 700 species of algae living in Antarctica. The biggest collection of these plants is found on the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula, where the weather is a little bit better. But even in the super dry and cold McMurdo Dry Valleys,
welcome to the coldest, driest desert on our planet, Antarctica's McMurdo Dry Valleys. Shaped by millions of years of geologic change, the ice-free ecosystem supports only microscopic animal and plant life.
There are still special types of algae, fungi, and lichens living in the cracks and crevices of the rocks. Also, if you go to the islands around Antarctica, you'll find even more different kinds of plants, including more flowers and even some ferns. However, scientists fear that these plants may go into extinction in years to come due to the introduction of human activities like whaling and non-native species, which may mess with the delicate balance of nature here. Meteorites. Another of the most incredible scientific feats to come out of Antarctica has got to be the discovery of 5 brand new meteorites by a team of dedicated researchers.
Rare 17-pound meteorite discovered in Antarctica. During a recent excursion to the icy plains of Antarctica, including one of the largest ever found on the continent.
What makes this find even more remarkable is how the researchers were able to pinpoint the location of these cosmic gems using cutting-edge satellite technology. The researchers, hailing from Belgium and the United States, didn't stumble upon these meteorites by chance. They analyzed detailed satellite data on factors like surface temperature, slope, velocity, and ice thickness to identify the most promising areas to search. And searching these sites was no easy task, as the scientists had to camp out on the ice and ride snowmobiles across the vast, frozen landscape just to cover the target areas in very harsh conditions. Though it was a nightmarish adventure, their sacrifices paid off when they discovered 5 remarkable meteorites, with one weighing a whopping 16.7 pounds, which is one of the largest meteorites ever found in Antarctica.
One scientist from the Field Museum made a very cool discovery. She recently returned to Chicago after finding a massive meteorite in the Antarctic.
It weighs nearly 17 pounds and could hold secrets about the beginning of our solar system.
After their discovery, the space rocks were sent to the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences for further studies. at least with the result, we would have a better understanding of the origin and evolution of our solar system. Fruitcake. In 2016, conservators working with the Antarctic Heritage Trust during one of their surveys stumbled on a perfectly preserved fruitcake dating back to the early 1900s, when the famous explorer Captain Robert Falcon Scott led his daring Terra Nova expedition to Antarctica. Normally, pastries even with preservatives get moldy after a few months, but that wasn't the case with this one.
The New Zealand-based Antarctic Heritage Trust recently found the 100-year-old desert in Antarctica's oldest building, a hut on Cape Adare.
When the explorers finally got to unwrap it, they were astonished to find the cake in a remarkably well-preserved state. In fact, the only real sign of its age was the faint putrid butter smell it gave off. Other than that, it was practically still edible. But how was that even possible? The experts say it's all thanks to Antarctica's extreme cold temperatures. As conservators continue to explore and uncover the secrets buried beneath the ice, the hope is that further insights into the biodiversity and environmental history of this mysterious continent will emerge, ultimately broadening our understanding of this unforgiving corner of the world. Emperor penguins. Seeing plants in the harsh, unforgiving landscapes of Antarctica is surprising, but the presence of the emperor penguin is another ballgame. While taking recordings of the icy lands, this researcher stumbled upon a breeding colony of an estimated 10,000 on Snow Hill Island in the Weddell Sea.
Now, new satellite pictures have revealed 4 previously unknown emperor penguin colonies in Antarctica.
This was an ample opportunity to closely study these birds and how they are able to survive in this harsh environment, so they intensified their study only to make more interesting findings. These penguins work together as a team to ensure their offspring's survival. They're monogamous, with both the male and female sharing equally in the rearing of their young. The male even takes on the task of incubating the single egg, protecting it on his feet, and shielding it with a layer of feathered skin while the female goes off to feed for months at a time. And when the temperatures plummet and the storms rage, the penguins have an ingenious way of keeping warm. They'll gather together in massive communal groups, with the birds on the outer edges rotating inwards to share the heat. Now, you might think that with all these amazing adaptations, the emperor penguin population is safe and thriving. But the truth is, these incredible birds are facing a growing threat from the effects of climate change. As sea ice continues to melt at an alarming rate, breeding failures have been reported, putting the overall population at risk. Is there a way to save these species? Only conservationists can provide that answer. Yeti crab. Next on our list of incredible discoveries made in Antarctica is the Yeti crab. In 2010, scientists were exploring the deep-sea hydrothermal vents of the East Scotia Ridge in the Southern Ocean when they found crazy-looking crabs living around the hot, bubbling hydrothermal vents, which they later named after the mystical Yeti due to their hairy exterior. Apart from its hairy exterior, the Yeti crab is different from the other Yeti crab species found in warmer deep-sea areas. This one has shorter, chunkier front limbs that help it hold on tight to the vertical vent surfaces, and its body is more compact and stout overall compared to its relatives. What mussed scientists the most was the extreme environment where they were found. The temperature in the vents where they were found is no joke, as the water right next to them can get as hot as 700 degrees freeze. That's 400 degrees C. But just a little bit further away, it's barely above freezing. But somehow, these Yeti crabs had figured out how to thrive in that narrow sweet spot. In fact, they even learned to huddle together in these massive groups, with as many as 700 of them all squished into just 1 square meter. But the coolest thing about these Yeti crabs is how they get their food. Instead of hunting for it, they actually farm bacteria that grow on the hair-like structures covering their bodies and legs, and in turn, use those bacteria as their main source of nutrition. The discovery of this new Yeti crab species is a reminder that there's still so much we have to learn about the extreme environments deep down in the ocean. Leopard seals. Still on animals that have somehow adapted to the cold weather of Antarctica, an explorer discovered and captured footage of the leopard seal of Antarctica. With a body that can grow up to 3.5 meters long, that's over 11 feet, which can weigh more than 500 kilograms, which is over 100 pounds, and big, sharp teeth that they use to clutch onto their prey mercilessly, the seal has named the second largest species of seal on the planet and the undisputed apex predators of the Antarctic ecosystem. But that's not even what's most scary about them. To add to their terrific looks, they are considered to be one of the most intelligent marines, especially with their strange hunting method. As opposed to other predators who will engage in fierce racing with their prey, the seal hunts through a special trick called wave washing, where they create huge waves to wash unsuspecting penguins and other prey off of the ice floes and into the water, where the seals can then pounce and devour them. But this is the ironic part about this animal. Despite being feared by many, the seals are very social and have been seen approaching divers and even letting people pet and scratch them. But with the ever-changing climate of Antarctica, scientists are watching to see if any more adaptations or previously unknown traits will be discovered. The giant Antarctic sea spider. The mysteries of the deep have long captivated the human imagination, and the Antarctic seafloor is no exception. For over a century, the reproduction and development of the mighty Antarctic sea spider, Colossendeus megalonyx, had remained a mystery.
A 140-year-old mystery has been cracked by researchers. A team of scientists recently traveled to Antarctica to see how sea spiders reproduce.
These incredible creatures, known for their massive size with leg spans reaching up to 20 inches, have long been a source of fascination for scientists. Unlike their smaller cousins in warmer regions, these sea spiders have embraced the phenomenon of polar gigantism, growing to truly colossal proportions. This species was just too unique to be ignored, so to understand more about it, especially its reproductive behaviors, in 2021, a team of researchers from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, undaunted by the challenges of conducting research in the remote and harsh environment of the South Pole, embarked on a journey to observe the mating and egg-laying rituals of these polar giants. They collected mating pairs of the giant spiders and carefully transported them back to the research facility at McMurdo Station, Antarctica. There, they witnessed a profound secret that had eluded them for over 140 years. One of the parents, likely the male, spent 2 painstaking days carefully attaching thousands of eggs to the rocky bottom of the tank. But the story doesn't end there. As the weeks passed, the researchers observed the eggs becoming overgrown with microscopic algae, providing a natural camouflage to help hide them from hungry predators like sea stars, rays, and crabs. This unique adaptation may explain why this remarkable reproductive behavior had gone unnoticed for so long, as the well-camouflaged eggs were incredibly difficult to spot in the vast, dimly lit Antarctic seafloor. The researchers believe that this egg-laying strategy on the seafloor represents an important evolutionary step between the free-spawning behavior seen in some species and the brooding habits of other sea spiders. This new insight into the biology and natural history of these giant Antarctic sea spiders is not only fascinating, but also crucial in our ongoing efforts to understand this unique Antarctica. If given the chance to visit Antarctica, let us know in the comments which of these discoveries would you love to see firsthand. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channels. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.